So we're here in game 2 of Ardent Axiom versus Chubby Bunnies. And if we look at the screen, we see Blueberries and Don John. They're talking here. They're talking through this pick and ban phase because this game has already happened. And if you want to watch these games live happen, you can watch them on twitch.tv/Vainglory League. And we saw this ban happen. So in these tournaments, each team is allowed one ban. And these are global bans. So whatever you pick on one side, the other side cannot pick that hero as well. So it's kind of just out of play for anybody.
And the bans definitely can go one of two ways. In this case, I believe Ardent is banning Koshka because in that first match, Neon Fire did such a great job of initiating fights with that stun, with the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, her ultimate, and now they're gonna try and take that away from Chubby Bunnies. But as you said, it's a global ban, and so no one can use Koshka at all. And then Chubby
And
Bunnies
Chubby Bunnies,
banned
yeah, they got
Celeste.
rid of Celeste, yeah. Which is, I think, just because Celeste is extremely strong and that ultimate just does a ton of damage. Her Solar Storm.
She does. She can do such effective poke damage with her heliogenesis, and then a stun on top of it, and a nice, especially in a team fight, basically an entire team nuke with her solar storm. But what is poke?
So poke is damage you can do from afar. At a safe distance, you can kind of just be annoying. Just poke them a little. Just like, hey, how you doing? Does that hurt? Does that hurt?
Just like Facebook
What you
pokes, you know?
Yeah, just like Facebook posts, or if you've had a brother or sister, you kind of in the back seat with your parents driving you somewhere, and you're just kind of bugging them.
That is exactly it. And Celeste can very easily, if you delay fighting, very easily make it to where it's in the favor of the team with Celeste. But then Ardent went ahead and picked Glaive.
Right. So they get one pick. Since they were the first pick, they pick one hero. Or Chubby Bunnies, they're gonna pick two here in a minute. But
And typically, how do teams when they have the two picks? How what do they typically pick?
so they were gonna want to pick someone that either they feel is extremely strong, or to take away a pick from the other team, because now Chubby Bunnies cannot play Glaive. Arden has that unlock, and Chubby Bunnies is probably talking here on communication, just trying to figure out, like, what do we need to pick to kind of shut down that Glaive to counter him.
Yes, and Glaive has almost always been very a front runner for kind of damage output, and he can really lay on the hurt. And typically, you see like a timer in a lot of esports. For this, there's no real timer, but there's an internal Donjon and Blueberries have their own sort of timer in the background that they're waiting, making sure teams don't take too long. Because you do need to make a prompt decision, because it, if you waited around all game long to do anything in a normal match, then you would probably lose. So you got to be able to do that here. And looks like
So
yeah, talk about those.
yes, so we saw them pick the Fortress again, which they felt, I think, just benefited them very well. Just that early game damage and output. And they went with the Rona, who also, with the Fortress, they both have these like kind of bleed or damage over time or ticks that just kind of hurt them. It's like a wounded hero they can cause on somebody. And so I think this was a good pick by Chubby Bunnies to pick up these two heroes that just are both going to want to get in your face and fight.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And on top of that, the fact that Chubby Bunnies in the previous match saw how well they did by taking the early game. So the first few minutes of the match, they really capitalized on being able to effectively shut down Ardent. And so within the picking and banning, they're picking up heroes that are going to be still advantageous to in the early game to help shut down Ardent a little bit. And so looks like Ardent is now picking, and they've picked up Arden and then Scarf.
Scarf.
Yeah, how what do
Um,
those picks mean?
it made a lot of sense that they needed someone like a Scarf to just poke from a distance and kind of stay back as much as possible. Although Fortress and Rona are going to want to jump in there and get there. Scarf's range on his A ability, it's called Spitfire. You'll see him just shoot a fireball out, and it can do a lot of damage and help him stay safe. So I think that was a smart pick. And then grabbing Arden, who can kind of jump on Scarf to shield him, just to keep him a little safer, is very smart by Ardent.
Yeah, and Arden has probably one of the best ultimates to be able to couple with carry. He lays down that gauntlet, and then Scarf will be able to do his dragon's breath. And assuming Arden is able to lock down one or two targets, or even the whole Chubby Bunnies team, he can just sit there outside of the gauntlet and just sit there and breathe fire on them.
Yeah. And then we saw Chubby Bunnies pick up Ringo, which to me, this composition from Chubby Bunnies is just a very early game fight team. Like they wanna get in there and just do a lot of damage and just kind of probably stay in Ardent's jungle as much as possible and not let them get anywhere.
Yes, and potentially we're gonna actually see Chubby Bunnies roam as a three-man party, potentially from basically the first minute, and Ringo will just pop up into the lane on occasion to clear out farm and make sure that their turret doesn't take damage. Uh, but this should exactly what you said should be a very early game heavy team. But for Ardent, what just looking at these heroes, at what point in the game are they going to really start to shine?
So once I think once they all hit kind of six, that it's kind of like maybe the mid game we'll kind of call it here. It's kind of that point where some of these early game heroes, like maybe Fortress, kind of start to hurt a little bit, but Glaive and Scarf kind of come into their own at this point, and they can kind of they start to hurt and do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
I think by Ardent, like just making it past that like first 6 to 10 minutes should be fine.
and if you were listening to Don John and Blueberries and Tasty Bacon and all the other casters for VGL, um, they're typically going to do what we just did. They're going to talk about these picks and bans, and they'll probably talk about them at a little bit higher of a level, um, just so then you can, they see this and they'll immediately go, okay, this is the strategy, and kind of it a lot nicer to be able to pick these strategies out versus having to do blind picks like you do for public queue. But
Mm-hmm.
what is Trogdor doing here for Neon Fire?
So he's starting each one of the jungle camps. He's kind of just getting that first hit. He has the Iron Guard contract, so he wants to take the first hit and just kind of back off and let Neon Fire finish them, get the last hit, and then that gold is divided between them a little bit, so it's shared, and it allows Neon Fire to get the experience and the last hit gold, and Trogdor just gets that shared gold from the Iron Guard contract.
And if you look at the mini map, Arden is actually played by shifts. It was actually all the way over into the jungle, and he was able to safely port back.
Yeah, I'm not. He was kind of just scouting out. You'll see on the mini map there's like two blue dots on that map right now, and those are scout traps. You also hear people call them mines in game, but they're scout trap. They grant vision, and when a character walks across them, they explode and do damage.
Yeah, and that's actually really shifty of him. He was absolutely like a ninja going in there and being able to drop those. And then the fact that Chubby Bunnies probably still don't know that those scout traps are even there. Um,
And it allowed Glaive to just clear the jungle himself and get that experience without having to share it. So
Yes.
that will help him reach his level 6 a little faster.
Yes, and you can still see, everything that you normally see in game, down at the bottom left and right for each team, the health, the energy, the abilities, and all that, like we said earlier, and then the experience as well. Which, if you during team fights, sometimes it's really important to like glance at the experience. Will during the middle of the match, will someone turn level 6, pick up their ultimate, and then be able to use it to turn a team fight?
So your ultimate is your last ability that you have that you get at level 6. Also, sometimes the C ability, but usually your ultimate because it is probably the most powerful ability you usually have.
Yes, and because it is your most powerful, you typically see people are going to use. They're going to pick up all three ranks of that right there. And oh, look at this! See, D'Enzio was going in on Judge Jack playing Scarf, but Whalmer and Shifts on Arden and Glaive came up. They rotated up and were able to force D'Enzio kind of off of Scarf right there.
They tried to pick up the kill, but just couldn't happen. It was more important to keep Scarf safe than worry about that kill.
Yeah, and sometimes even though there's no additional benefit to getting the first blood, the psychological benefit to being able to pick up that first kill really helps set the tone of the match for your team. And
And so Ardent's done a great job so far of just kind of staying safe this match. We're at 4 minutes. No one's level 6 yet, but they've done a great job just keeping the scout traps down, getting vision. You've seen shifts go in there, almost be a mobile ward at times, just looking for people, just seeing where they're at, and letting Glaive farm and clear the jungle.
yes, and on the point of being safe, they are staying as a pack of three a lot more often in this match than they did in the first one. Um, but
And we may see our first fight here now in the jungle. Fortress got caught out a little bit, and you'll see Scarf just staying far back, poking. Neon Fire is chasing Glaive down, who's trying to get the damage out, but Rona just hit 6 before him and just had that little bit more health and shield and just output of her damage.
and during that fight, Whalmer on Glaive actually stood still for a little bit, but right next to the jungle shop. But what was he most likely doing?
He was probably picking up maybe a health pot or just trying to get one more item just to get something.
Yeah, in the
That
middle
might
of
be
the
able to help
fight.
him.
Not maybe not the best time, but sometimes being able to pick up those items really swing those fights, just like being able to get higher level during the middle of it. But it looks like so
So
far Chubby Bunnies are in
yeah,
the.
they have the advantage at this point. They didn't have enough of an advantage to take the gold mine at this point, even though they did pick up that kill on Glaive. It just wouldn't have been safe for them with Scarf still alive, who can, like we've mentioned before, poke from that distance and just kind of annoy you.
Yes, and Scarf, his Spitfire, especially once you get a lot of damage on it. Oh, but look at the damage coming out. They're going all in on Jack.
Right. So that was we saw that big burst of fireball come out of DNZO, and that was Ringo's ultimate is Hellfire Brew, and it's a great ultimate that can go basically across the map. As long as you have vision of the person, you can attack them, or click on them and use it, and it will follow them wherever they go until it hits them.
Yes. And they right there they decide Chubby Bunnies decided to actually just back off of the team fight. It didn't look like it was going to go if it did go their way, it wasn't going to be humongously favorable. It would have been a bad trade for them. So they picked up Jungle Farm. But when I say trade, what do I mean by trade?
So this is the fight, like how one side came out and the other side came out. So you trade damage, you trade abilities, and sometimes you even trade items. Like if you used a reflex block or your health potions, like you just kind of want to come out ahead, either with more health or more items and more ultimates probably available on your side.
More is always better in this. Always better.
Right. Yeah, in this game, I think Ardent is doing the correct thing and just playing very safe and just kind of waiting this game out until they can get to this mid game spike, kind of where they're at right now. This is probably a fantastic moment to see this big fight happen. And we see, again, just a lot of poke trading back and forth.
Yes, and Ringo's ultimate Hellfire Brew it does splash damage to the entire Ardent team, and it really, even though that's the only, he can't use it again for another 70 seconds or so. It really forces Ardent to think about if they want to go in while they're taking burn damage when they took all this splash damage. But looks like they're gonna actually try and go for this gold mine, and they do get
And
it.
Scarf grabbed it, but Glaive and Rona went down.
And we can
So,
you can actually tell who does what, who killed what on the right hand side. There's a nice battle log. And actually in spectator mode, we'll start to see it pretty soon. But what did they add to where we can now see?
so you're going to be able to see critical item purchases. Usually tier 3 items. If they're bought by who. The other team cannot see this. This is strictly for spectator mode. And just kind of give you a better idea, give all the shoutcasters out there a better just sense of what's happening, so they don't have to always be just watching the items at the bottom. They can get a quick view of if Rona bought her breaking point, or maybe Scarf got his shatter glass. You can quickly see that and know who's about to come out in this fight.
Yeah, and there goes the
And so,
shoutcasters. They're hyping up right now because this is was a bad situation for Ardent. Didn't have the vision, and so potentially a really bad 3v2. And now Jack is in an even worse position. Shifts did not get his gauntlet. He misplaced it, did not go through the wall, and Scarf goes
and
down for it.
Scarface now. He tried to just push the turret. He saw that Chubby Bunnies was kind of in the jungle and wanted to kind of take that advantage to get the turret down, get some pressure in the lane. But just did not work out. With Fortress having that speed boost, Ringo as well with his B ability that his twirling silver can speed you up, and Rona who can just jump in there. It's a hard team comp to escape from.
Quite a mobile team comp when you pointed out how fast everyone can actually kind of get into the fight for Chubby Bunnies. Rona really has two abilities that she can enter the fight with, her A or her B, into the fray or foe splitter. And then her into the fray can actually be used to get out of the fray.
And right there we saw, you see this red vision come up over. That was Chubby Bunnies using a flare to kind of check the bush to make sure they had vision to see where Ardent Axiom was.
And the vision from a flare is only momentary. So there it goes again, and all the ultimates coming out right now.
Yeah, the Ardent was trying to just kind of, they wanted to protect the gold mine, so they got the payout here. And I think everyone used the ultimate there. Like you said, the Hellfire Brew came out first. Fortress used his Wolf Pack, and this came out. But man, they're chasing this Ardent, or chasing this Arden. They want this kill.
This has typically they will you won't see too many people try to chase the supports that much, but that was an awesome move right there by Shifts. What combo did he use there to on a
So
door?
he had that scout trap there from what, minute one. It was still there. he was able to take advantage of it. He used his Vanguard on himself to slow the enemy. When you use it on yourself or allies, it'll slow the nearby enemies. And so he used it to slow Trogdor down onto that scout trap. It exploded and did incredible damage to him, and just a couple more attacks was able to take down Fortress.
That
It is very well played.
very absolutely well played. It's those are the plays that you can Shifts was going to go down and he knew it, but he went down fighting and took out someone with him to help kind of even out the trade a little bit. So then so it was less of a just purely negative fight for Ardent there.
So on the gold mine, we see these like Pac-Man cherries. What are those for anyone that's confused? Like, is it just food for the gold miner?
It means Pac-Man's going to come out. No,
Pac-Man's coming.
Pac-Man's coming. No, it means it's the minion candy. You can buy it in the consumables tab of the shop, and what you do, you can place it on the gold miner. You can place it on a minion miner. You can place it on your lane minions, and it'll strengthen them in terms of health, but then also it'll make them do a little bit more damage. So the gold miner is definitely the strongest strongest
Minion
neutral
out there, monster.
yeah, and so putting it on him not only helps you prevent a steal from the other team, it also makes it to where they're almost like a fourth hero on your side, fourth teammate.
Right. So if we look at the top of the screen, we see Ardent only has 3 kills. Chubby Bunnies has 6, but the golds, we got 12.6 on Ardent and 12.9 on Chubby Bunnies. It is extremely close.
It is, and right now those kills, it isn't a huge deal that they're still that Ardent is still lacking in 3 kills. We're approaching the 15-minute mark when the Kraken comes out, but we're not. But Ardent is still in a pretty good position. They are ahead by 1 turret. If you kind of look at the entire situation, it's fairly positive for them. But team fight comes out, and they're
They almost take down Scarf, but he was able to get out. And I believe Arden used the Fountain of Renewal. It's a fantastic item that basically gives health back to the entire team that's in an area. So any of the players, allies that you use that nearby will regain health.
and you can see that he used it based off of if you take a look at all the items that he has, you now see the cooldown. It is a little tough to see after they use it what item is what.
Right.
But if you see, oh, he now has health when he should not. You can go. It's
might have
probably
used
a
that.
Fountain of renewal.
Yeah. So it looked like Ardent came out ahead on that fight a little bit, and they were able to just again rotate through the jungle here and kind of take advantage of winning that fight. And now they're coming ahead in gold a little bit, 15K to 14.6.
First time I think within these first two matches that Ardent has been in front in terms of gold. They've closed the gap in terms of kills. They're only down by 2 instead of 3 now. But now we're seeing everyone dance around here. Why? What is going on?
So someone could take Kraken very quickly, either side, and we're getting a big fight where DNZ is just staying on the back, poking down everyone on the team, and he used that Hellfire Brew very early, which it's a good idea for Ringo sometimes, just to like get that quick output of damage. And even if it doesn't kill somebody, it forced someone to use one of their items, the reflex block or a crucible, just get that out of the fight. So then the next big ability, maybe the next ultimate to come in, can do that damage that they want to do.
Yes, and sometimes you'll hear the casters calling it the like forcing a reflex block. And
So, yeah, why didn't Chubby Bunnies just do Kraken here? Like that seemed like they got the ace. They killed everyone on the other team. Like I would go for the Kraken, right? Like you have that advantage. Like push down.
Right, the Kraken was right there. Trogdor and Dienzio were actually already starting it, but they backed off because when you take a look at the respawn timers for Ardent, they were almost all around 10 seconds. They were not doing Chubby Bunnies was not doing enough damage to be able to capture the Kraken in time, so they went ahead and did the next best thing, or and what I think was probably the best choice from the beginning is just go ahead and take a turret. And now they're continuing to kind of apply some pressure. They want to now that they have this advantage because they decisively took that team fight.
And the
Three
gold shifted back in Chubby Bunny's favor.
and they are probably looking to keep it this way. All of them porting back, but what do you actually see right
So
above the
Jaja,
portraits?
right above
Oh,
the portraits are there's items. There's consumables, I guess. They're infusions. They're called, and you see a weapon and a crystal infusion on many of the heroes at this point. And this fight just went horribly wrong for Ardent.
yeah.
Jaja Jax on Scarf looked like he just wanted to, again, just push the turret. Like we've seen this twice in this fight where he wanted to push the turret down, get that advantage, get the gold for his team, and it's backfired on him a couple times.
Yeah, it has not been a good fight for Jaja Jack the last few times. Um, but Chubby Bunnies have done what's called focusing Scarf down so well. So exactly is focusing?
So that's what when you pick one hero, you kind of target them out. It's sometimes very hard to play or to do if you're not on communications with the team. If everyone's not on the same page to say, hey, we're going to attack this person. Let's get them out of the fight. Chubby Bunnies realizes that Scarf has to go first. He does an extreme amount of damage, although he's 0, 5, and 4. Like he does not have any kills, but he's been farming, killing minions, killing creeps very well. So he does quite a bit of damage. So taking him out of the fights first is just going to help them be able to kill Glaive and Arden.
Yes, and they could probably switch over to trying to kill Whalmer on Glaive, but um, Scarf just even though they're behind, Scarf can still do so much damage. And right here,
And
another Hellfire Brew coming out on Jax. Gonna have to waste a Vanguard on him as well to help him to where he doesn't take so much burn damage. Kraken takes one turret. They're down to their last two, and
Chubby Bunnies just looks like they want to just shut this game out. They just want to win here. But looks like everyone's getting caught in this gauntlet, and Scarf's ultimate comes out. That big fire brew or fire breath coming out and just hurting people. But he goes down,
are they going to
and
be able to do anything with this?
they lost their entire base there. So right now, the only thing that is open and available is the vein crystal right there. All Chubby Bunnies has to do is get in there and attack that. They have no turrets left. They don't have anything to worry about.
And they're chasing
They're,
down Trogdor. They're trying to get this ace here. 2 more seconds till the Vanguard. Putting it on himself right there. Arden did to help slow
but
down Trogdor.
you
But
see that Glaive is out of energy. So underneath everyone's health bar is a blue line, and this is energy. Sometimes in other games you'll hear it called mana, but in Vainglory it's called energy. And he was out of energy, so he couldn't use anything to kind of close that gap on Trogdor.
and so now that Ardent literally only has their vein crystal, what is what is the best strategy for them to try and come
So
back?
they're gonna want to get the fight, or they want to take a fight as far away from their base as possible. Like they have no reason to fight near their base because Chubby Bunnies could just kind of focus the vein crystal down without having to focus them, and Ardent just kind of wants to catch them out somewhere in here in the jungle, possibly. Maybe with some scout traps down that can also enhance some damage for them.
Yeah, and for Chubby Bunnies right now, it's probably a good idea to, if there's a few gold away from upgrading one of their items into a tier 3 item. There's no reason for them to immediately push. Now they're best for them to get on it, but
So you said a tier 3 item. Every item in Vainglory, or most of them, have tier 1, 2, and 3, and tier 3 is the best.
and
So here comes this fight that could decide the game. Ardent gets his gauntlet off that keeps everyone back, keeps Scarf safe, and Scarf is now just poking, doing that damage from far. And one person goes down on Chubby Bunnies, two people.
oh wow, and look at Whalmer somehow surviving that fountain, keeping it to where he stayed up. But we're now into long enough into the game to where the respawn timers are pretty close to a minute.
All right, so we see on each hero's portrait there, it's 30 seconds now for everyone. That's how long they have until they come back alive,
And
until they're back on the fold.
that should be plenty of time to pick up this Kraken. They rotated down to the Kraken fairly quickly. They should be able to pick it up. If we take a look at everyone's gold, most likely we'll see them pick up a lot of infusions. You see Scarf picking up 2. Whelmer's going to pick up 1. He does not have enough gold
Yeah, and
to pick up
even
2.
although he picked up Scarf picked up a weapon infusion, although he has no weapon damage, it still gives him some advantage. Like it's worth it if you cannot buy any other items. Like it'll help you there.
For
Although not as much as the crystal infusion will do even more because he's a crystal carry.
Yes, the armor and the shield is worth that 500 gold, specifically for Scarf. The extra attack speed will help him apply that fan the flames. But if we were talking about Celeste, no, it would not be beneficial. But they're able to get down to these last 2 turrets, finally taking out DNZO, Trogdor, and Neon Fire, having to run back to the base.
But Scarf his Spitfire and his Goop just take down big objectives like turrets and vein crystals so easily, and looks like wow, Ardent pulls this one out. It did not look good for them. They were able to make it happen.
10-14, so they were down. They still won. They just because of that last push, they were able to get the gold amount equivalent. But look at Jack 1, 6, and 8. Like he did not get any kills. Arden, their support got more kills than he did. But
Chubby Bunnies did the best job they could to make sure Scarf was not a threat, and it helped for a while. But Scarf, he scales into the late game so well, and hitting that 25 minutes. We went longer than game 1. Like 25 minutes is quite a long game.
And I think when they've just now pulled up the builds, and you were just saying, longer Scarf goes, the more powerful he is. If you take a look at actually DNZO on Chubby Bunnies playing Ringo, he went with this proc build. So it's going to have the tension bow and it's going to have the aftershock. And that is a very bursty build, but after
you use a couple things, you're out of luck, I guess.
You're like, it's kind of it's that hey guys, I'm done for the next so many seconds until you can kind of get everything to proc again. But very hard to continue doing that damage. But that it's important to kind of look at those builds afterwards and go, okay, this is why later in the match Ringo really didn't do a whole lot of damage. He fell off quite a bit.
Right. So I feel like a fantastic game by both teams. Everyone played very well in this, and looking forward to a game three.
Shatter the vein.